Hi guys, I'm Jericho Canlas from BSB 1A, and for today's video or discussion, we will talk about the evolution of Philippine Constitution in reading in Philippine history. Sana po magustuhan nyo and sana po maintindihan nyo. Thank you! The Philippines has had a total of 6 constitutions since the proclamation of independence on June 12, 1898. In 1899, the Malolos Constitution, the first Philippine Constitution, the first Republican Constitution in Asia, was drafted and adopted by the First Philippine Republic, which lasted from 1899 to 1901. During the American occupation, the Philippines was governed by the laws of United States of America. Organic Acts were passed by the United States Congress for the administration of the government of the Philippine Island. The first was the Philippine Organic Act of 1902, which provided for the Philippine Assembly composed of Filipino citizens. The second was the Philippine Autonomy Act of 1916, which included the first pledge of Philippine independence. These laws served as Constitution of the Philippines from 1902 to 1935. The 1935 Constitution. The 1935 Constitution provided the legal basis of the Commonwealth government, which was considered a transition government before the granting of the Philippine independence with American-inspired Constitution. The Philippine government would eventually pattern in government system after American government. The 1935 Constitution was ratified by the Filipino people through a national plebiscite on May 14, 1935, and came into full force and effect on November 15, 1935, with the inauguration of the Commonwealth of the Philippines. Among its provisions was that it would remain the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines once independence was granted on July 4, 1946. During World War II, the Japanese-sponsored government nullified the 1935 Constitution and appointed preparatory committee on the Philippine independence to replace it. The 1943 Constitution was used by the Second Republic with Giuseppe Laurel as a president. The Third Constitution, 1945 to 1973. Upon the liberation of the Philippines in 1945, the 1935 Constitution came back into effect. The Constitution remained unaltered until 1947 when the Philippine Congress called for its amendment through Commonwealth Act No. 733. On March 11, 1947, the Parity Amendment gave United States citizens equal rights with Filipino citizens to develop natural resources in the country and operate public utilities. The Constitution thereafter remained the same until the declaration of martial law on September 23, 1972. The 1943 Constitution. The 1943 Constitution was the Constitution of the Japanese-sponsored Second Republic of the Philippines, 1943 to 1945. It was recognized as the legitimate and binding only in Japanese-controlled areas of the Philippines, but was ignored by the United States government and the Philippine Commonwealth government in exile. The 1943 Constitution was used by the Second Republic with Giuseppe Laurel as president. The Second Philippine Republic was established during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines. A new constitution was ratified in 1943 by Filipino collaborators who were called the Kapisanan sa Paglilingkod ng Bagong Pilipinas or Kalibapi. An active guerrilla movement continued to resist the Japanese occupation. The Japanese forces were finally defeated by the Allies in 1944 and this sorry chapter came to a close. The 1973 constitutional authoritarianism. In 1973, after the declaration of martial law, the 1935 Constitution was replaced by a new charter, the 1973 Constitution. In commemoration, President Marcos repealed President Quezon's Proclamation No. 36, 1936 by virtue of Proclamation No. 1219, 1973, which moved Constitution Day from February 8 to January 17 of every year. The proclamation commemorated the day when President Marcos certified that the new constitution had been ratified. Constitution Day was commemorated until the end of President Marcos' term, but was overshadowed by the proclamation making September 21st of every year the Thanksgiving Day, the date indicated on Presidential Proclamation No. 1081, 1972. Martial law, however, was actually declared 2 days later when President Marcos announced it through nationwide television. While in the process of drafting a new constitution, President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law on 21st September in 1972. The draft constitution was submitted to the Citizens' Assembly from January 10 to 17, 1973 for ratification. January 17, 1973, President Marcos issued Proclamation No. 1102 announcing the ratification of the Constitution of Republic of the Philippines. The 1987 Constitution after the martial law and the present Constitution. The 1987 Constitution, Aquino began her term by repealing many of the Marcos-era regulations that had repressed to the people for so long. In March, she issued a unilateral proclamation establishing a provisional constitution. This constitution gave the president broad powers and great authority, but Aquino promised to use them only to restore democracy under a new constitution. This new constitution was drafted in 133 days by an appointed constitutional commission of 48 members and ratified by the people in the plebiscite held on February 2, 1987. It was largely modeled on the American Constitution, which had so greatly influenced the 1935 Constitution, but it also incorporated Roman, Spanish, and Anglo law. The 1987 Constitution established a representative democracy with power divided among three separate and independent branches of government: the executive, a viceroy legislature, and the judiciary. There were three independent constitutional commissions as well: the Commission on Audit, the Civil Service Commission, and the Commission on Election. Integrated into the Constitution was full of Bill of Rights, which guaranteed fundamental civil and political rights, and it provided for free, fair, and periodic elections. In comparison with the weak document that had given Marcos a legal fiction behind which to hide, this constitution seems ideal to many Filipinos emerging from 20 years of political repression and oppression. And that's the evolution of Philippine Constitution. Thank you po.